Hello and welcome everyone, it's me Liver. Awesome is about to do is back for you with the free content video that I get to make every couple of months. Um, it's Banlist prediction time. Let me pull up my notes real quick, but yeah. In general, what do I expect? I don't think this is going to be a particularly huge ban list overall. Because it really doesn't have to be. The Justice Hunters decks have kind of, swept up the old and put in the new, which is to be expected when, a set this impactful releases. And all three of those are fairly well received. VS Canine is, of course, a very potent combo deck at the high end. Can play like a bit of a mid-range game if, you choose to do so or get hand-trapped to death. But has, initial weaknesses to draws, is a bit bricky, because you need the right attribute combinations in most cases. And, you do not translate too well from like K9 to VS. So if you just open K9 cards, you're just playing K9. But if you're opening Vanquish Soul cards, you do have the option to bridge into K9 off of Vanquish Soul. Yummy is, your average, like, modern one-card combo deck. But compared to previous iterations of that kind of like archetype of decks, has a bit more noticeable weaknesses. Similar to Sprite, it just struggles to like extend once you do remove a normal summon from the field, barring like unsearchable extenders. And also just struggles with breakers. It doesn't like just getting a pank dropped on it. And all that good stuff, like a Dark Ruler, for example. And Draco Tail is in this weird spot where kind of everyone knows it's good and it has some potential up to be like maybe a bit better than just the third best thing out of Justice Hunters. But it's currently not seeing the experimentation it probably needs to get into that position. But with like a good couple of like big names on that deck, like Jassy Cotton or Joshua Schmidt, I'm fairly confident it will get there. So much for the base point. We've kind of soft rotated out Maliss, Ryzeal, Mitsurugi, and kind of replaced those with these three new decks. Does that mean for everyone that has been on those previous decks that you're getting off without any hits? I don't think so. I think it's fairly realistic to expect at least another wave of consistency hits, which is kind of going to be the underlying theme of this list. Once I actually start talking about that. Geez, we're already 3 minutes in, and I have not talked about a single change. Impressive as always. But with that, I think I'm taking a ban right away, out of Konami's hands here. And we're going to talk about the man, the myth, the legend. Let me grab him real quick. Paradise Smasher. This is the one thing that this ban list has to do. I did struggle quite a bit putting together like even like a 12-ish cards for this list. Because man, format's looking good. It is looking good. But this piece of shit is just out here consistently stealing games if you make it in VSK9. Did have like a bit of personal hatred behind this one because I got this one. This dropped against me twice in testing post pre-JUSH. And both times it was made with just 2 monsters. I did lose that die roll twice, yeah. But yeah, with that, let's move up to the bottom, move down to the bottom, and get like the rough parts out of the way on every single little bit of a ban list. Something I do think is like not an absolute like hot take is this guy. Moved back to one, I believe, the last list, and with a decent bit of true Draco support on the horizon. I don't think Konami is going to let the opportunity slide to put Masterpiece back to 3. It just makes sense. I don't think this guy is too relevant anymore. Like most decks that are on like a fairly normal hand trap lineup do already play an engine out in, an Imperm, a Dominus card, like, Songs of Dominators in Yummy specifically. So just getting immunity from like 2 or 3 card types just doesn't fly anymore. Not to mention, this idiot's not even 3k. If you get the pop out in a deck like Blue Eyes, you just drop a white dragon on the board, and that's the end of the game, basically. Yeah, not aged too well. A Towers needs to do so much nowadays to be like worth considering. You know, take the Lunar Light boss that got second at Worlds. That thing's a tower. That thing is 3,800 and is also quick effect Raigeki. You know, you need so much on a tower nowadays, and single target removing against something that's like not even a full tower is, man, it's just rough. Next up, another thing, yeah, I don't know, Konami clearly doesn't care about like table 500 FTKs, so moving Morphing Jar to 3 doesn't do a thing. Something that could have at least a little bit of impact is this guy, the Unchained Soul of Shavara. This moved up fairly quickly, and that's going to be like a theme for like another card that we are going to talk about in the next section. Even if that card could probably also go in this one, but I'm choosing to, you know, I guess be more on like the prediction side of thing. What would Big Evil Corporation do in this situation? I think Shavara moving to 3 is somewhat realistic. Not only because, you know, again, they moved it up last list, they moved it up fairly quickly last list, and realistically, these hits are like probably some of the like wackiest hits of like the last years. And this could even have like a realistic impact, either, you know, Unchained taking down a regional or two, or like, you know, topping even just at a basic level. Or, you know, that whole like Fiend Link pile around like the UL cards that like saw a lot of play last year, does get like another very potent extender out of that, which, you know, could be helpful. Yeah, I'm just going to put this here for no particular reason whatsoever. We're going to move into the summer limits. Which we are going to start off with something that I am putting here on the basis of if Konami decides to be really mean. And that is going to be, you need to really write these out. Damn. And that is going to be Maliss P Marcher. I think there is a card that is more likely to get hit out of the Maliss strategy. And I think is probably the more realistic hit out of the two. But if Konami is like, you know, we really don't like Maliss, then I could see Marcher getting Semite as well. And while I do have the Maliss cards open, we're going to talk about Underground. I think Underground going from 2 to 1, again, you know, consistency hits. I do believe that this is a list where Konami is going to tread lightly on these older decks. I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, someone gets killed, but I think this is the second list post their release, so I think it is fairly likely that we are just going to be working with consistency hits here. And Maliss P Maliss Underground, not Maliss. Anyways, is probably like the most high quality card on that deck. Not only because, unlike March here, it is also a starter, but also, you know, of course, a very potent extender, because if you banish any Maliss names, those do come back right again. And before anyone mentions Goldsark, no, we are not banning Goldsark in the year of our Lord 2025. I suppose while I'm at Maliss, I could talk about the silly little guys. I think the thing that is absolutely happening is X going to 1. I think I, again, could see also X going to 0. But X going to 1 would feel very in line with like the thought that this Banlist is going to be another wave of consistency hits. Of course, this whole assumption, if they don't do that, then this whole Banlist prediction kind of falls apart. But that's the, you know, kind of way with predictions. And if they want to be really mean, I think that putting Salt to 1 as well. The Ryzeal engine is something that I would like to see kept around, not only, you know, on a basic level, but also to like give rank 4 strategies in the future, kind of that fallback option, where like if you have like a leftover like 7th Tachyon, for example, at the end of a line, you can just, you know, 7th Tachyon for a sword or for an X, and then you just make a Ryzeal detonator as like a plan B. Could see that being kind of cute, and not like the worst thing in the universe. At least it's better than Baguska. But yeah, with that, I guess it's time to address the next silly thing in the room from the last format, yeah, the snakes are probably not getting off too easy as well. Then we're going to see prayers to 2, maybe to 1, but this is like the first format where Mitsu was like playable as a full strategy and not just as a splash. That is why I think like they're probably going to tread lightly with the Mitsu cards, especially because this is a TCG exclusive. So there might be like a bit of in-house bias because these are like their own brain children essentially. And then yeah, I don't think I would get like out of this because someone is going to see this and I would get angry DMs if I wouldn't be talking about this idiot. A math mech circular. We are at a point in time where a card that is as like circular is existing and is at 3, and I'm talking about the new like Onomart starter. I could see circular also just going to 3. I don't think that would be like a big problem, but I think in, you know, the classic Konami approach, putting it to 1, putting it to 2, putting it to 3, unless there is, you know, in the case of Masterpiece, outside, you know, circumstances for that. And with that, we do have one singular, another semi-limit here. I think Brilliant Fusion is going to. Not only with, you know, Gem Knights also now being out in the more important region, NA Omega LOL. Next year's worlds are ours. But, yeah. ADNA, you know, antagonizing half my viewership probably out of the way. I think, you know, with Brilliant Fusion moving to one last list, Gem Knights getting support. I think there is, you know, a bit of, you know, a smoking gun left here at the scene of the crime. And with that, we move into the limits, which I don't have to talk about too much anymore. Nice. Good on schedule here. This one's like pretty obvious. Summon Sock. I think she's been errated for a full year now. I'm pretty sure this card has been errated for a full year now. And yes, with the Battles of Legends reprints and also now out in EU, I would be very surprised if we don't see Summon Sock. Summon Sock could also just go to 3, like it, I think is already at 3 in the OCG and is doing absolutely nothing. I think I've seen maybe one list where this was in it as like an extender. But I couldn't even tell you which archetype it was, because I think the crossover between like decks that want this as an extender, that then also are fine with afterwards being archetype locked, is rather rough, because most decks have like either better in like type or in engine options, and especially with you like being locked out of like potentially generic options, this does lose like a lot of steam, which is why again could also go to 3, but I think it's probably going to 1, and then we're going to do the whole TCG all the way down the ladder thing, where the card moves from like 1 to 2 to 3 over the course of like 3 or 4 lists. And then, I don't know, like Dryden to 1. Again, like unbans, unlimits, unhits in general, like hard to like get a grasp on. I think you're more likely to hit a lottery ticket with like, you know, 6 digits than like getting that correctly. But you know, we've seen Barrage unbanned. Maybe in a world where like Ryzeal Detonator is fine to be at 1, a singular Ryzeal Detonator could realistically be unbanned. And then getting to a very short ban section. This is less against, you know, the like 5 Harpy players out there. I just don't think we need to be seeing the 15th feature match where someone goes first, gets hand trapped twice, makes Castel, thrusts for Featherstorm game 3. We don't. We frankly do not. This is more of a prediction, and this is seeing play. Unlike things, you know, like Dimensional Barrier, I would like to see burned alive. This is something, you know, in recent tournament memory, and I think it is time to go. And then, again, I've not talked a whole lot about Mitsurugi. which is why I'm not going to put this card on the list. If I could spell it correctly here. And that is King of the Feral Imps. I know first format where this guy is actually seeing play. And he's already floating around in Banlist discussions, which is sort of crazy, but I would not be surprised if this guy ended up on the ban list. Because this is kind of a like type of card that is kind of inherently a recipe for disaster. Generic extra deck pieces that give you extra access to the main deck don't have the best track record. I think there's like a, out of like all the extra deck pieces on the ban list, there's like a, I want to say like 60% of those are like either floodgates or, you know, as mentioned, generic extra deck pieces that access the main deck in a way. I wouldn't be surprised if this guy ended up here, but I don't think they're going to do that. Again, there's a bit of Mitsu bias, but that's mainly because I think they're not going to kill off a TCG exclusive in the first time round. They're going to give that deck like a light bit of consistency here. It could also maybe see like a pre-prep going to like 2-1 maybe if you want to be like really mean to, you know, rituals as a whole, but I don't think they're going to do that. I think it's prayers, and then maybe we're going to see like Habakiri on here as well. But I think, again, you know, Habakiri is the first list. Maybe he dodges this one. But yeah, with all that being said, just as always, these are, of course, always an, you know, interesting gateway for discussion, because banlist predictions do always go in very many different ways. Different people have like different opinions on what Konami is going to do. Different people have different, you know, opinions on what should be done. If this was a complete wish list, I would be sitting here for like an hour and we'd be like talking about why every single floodgate should get shot in the head, regardless of like how relevant it really is in the grand scheme of Yu-Gi-Oh! But that's, you know, a topic for another video. So let me know your thoughts on not only my predictions and also my thoughts on the whole like upcoming like Forbidden Unlimited list in the comments down below. And do feel free to share like your thoughts. Do you maybe agree with this? Do you think this is like a thing that could be happening? Do you think Konami is going to absolutely slaughter like Ryzeal and Maliss, and we're going to see Mitsu with like a good couple of heavier hits? Maybe you're like on the camp of like King of the Feral Imps to 0. Do let me know that in the comments down below. You guys are very good at keeping these things civil, so thanks for that. That is not a, I think, common thing around the internet. But yeah, with all that off the way, I'll be thanking you very much for watching. I'll be seeing you guys again next time. But until then, goodbye.